Oh no. Oh, did I? Hello? You know what I did? I have been playing Steam games on my PC, and to do that using my Pro controller, I've been hardwiring my Pro controller to the PC so that I can play games with my Switch controller. And I unplugged that today to plug it back into my Switch. And by doing that, I unplugged my microphone, which is now back in. Some of the things I was rambling about, which I thought everyone could hear me because Falco was responding to everything I was saying perfectly. Roller Coaster Tycoon came out in 1999, and my brother and I played the heck out of it. To the point to where we were figuring out different ways to send our guests to the afterlife. Which I'm assuming a lot of people did, even if they wanted to admit it or not. As soon as we found out you could just fling people off those roller coasters, it was over for us. Such a fun game. That would be a fun game to watch PJ play when he gets older. I'm definitely not going to be that parent that just like steers the kid towards something like, oh, here's some video games, play this. But I'm genuinely interested to see him experience playing a video game for the first time. Not like the newer game. I don't think new games are very kid friendly, because I mean, you basically just have to sit there and read everything to them, even if it is like a kid game. But something like the first Mario Brothers would be difficult for him, but it would be cool just to watch him figure out just like how the concepts of how that all works. Just like, oh, like I gotta jump over this thing, I gotta kind of like run and jump to get over this thing. There's no like text or anything that needs to be explained to him other than like, oh, your princess at another castle or something like that. But I feel like those old NES games are like good for kids who are just trying to like figure stuff out and to awaken their inner frustrations and stuff like that. Roller Coaster Tycoon is a really good game for kids. Really good game for kids. And adults. I mean, adults will probably do better at it, but that'd be a good family game, honestly. Anyways, how are you guys doing? I feel like someone's watching me. Yeah. I am. I would like to just watch one guest, just to like see them move throughout the park. This path is disgusting. It's like one little barf patch on it. Anyways, hello Fly, Falco, Keon, Epic Pikachu. Playing games on computer with your Switch controller? Yeah, why not? Why not? Your boy, first time in chat, number 82 says, do we have to tell him he's muted? You do, actually. You are required to do that. It's the only reason I muted myself. Mako Mart Zones looks too intense for me. Yeah. I've been watching a lot of videos on like just Roller Coaster Tycoon recently. Just the like the stats and like the things behind it. the I don't know if call him a speed. I don't know what the name of the person is. I've just been watching their videos on repeat. There's just a lot of interesting stuff about it, and just a lot of things that are like the OG Sims. Yeah, I remember playing that in middle school. Again, I would come up with different ways to like kill off my sim at the end. Oh. We played Sim City. That game's fun for like 10 minutes. For Roller Coaster Tycoon, for a game that came out 25 years ago, it holds up incredibly well today. Believe it or not, Keon, the haunted house attraction you could put up in Roller Coaster Tycoon was one of the least scariest things. Like, nobody was too scared to get on the haunted house. It was like a very low excitement, very low intensity, and thankfully a very low nausea rating. Yeah, the haunted house was just something you put up for like all the babies that came to your park. But there's like every roller coaster you build attracts a certain number of guests. Like there's this guys whose videos is just him making a ton of roller coasters that are just like a circle, like just a quick circle, no excitement or anything like that. But if you just build a roller coaster, it automatically attracts a certain number of guests to your park. So he built like the same coaster like 200 times. It got like 1,000 people into a park. Crazy stuff. Crazy how that game works, but highly recommend it. It's on Steam. I'm probably just gonna buy it and play it again. Relive some childhood stuff. Amber Isle. I have no idea what that is. Two weeks till Christmas? Really? Christmas is in the middle of the week this year. Meaning I have to go in on work the day after Christmas. I'm like gonna be 4 hours from my work site. Animal Crossing and Stardew. So Harvest Moon. Gotcha. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, while you are still digesting that Thanksgiving turkey, claiming that Low Ink is going to crash this weekend on Sindow.Inc., committing a crime while leaving a bag full of Monopoly money behind, whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Just when you thought Low Ink announced that they're moving over to Sindao.Inc. The final frontier, no more will you have to log on to Battlefy to play competitive Splatoon tournaments. Everything is now nice and neatly stored onto one website from somebody who's actually from the community and not just a standard esport Battlefy website where everything just kind of gets thrown on there. You're never going to have to go on Battlefy again until the Overlords had something to say about it. That's right. The Overlords decided out of nowhere, just when you thought they hated all of us from the jackpot situation for some reason, they're back with a brand new tournament taking place at the end of December. Turf War only, yet again. Is this going to lead to a secret championship at a PAX event in the future? I have no idea. Who knows? The cool thing is that Nintendo is still creating actual events for this game, which is good. Genuinely, that is always a good thing. Nintendo creating events has always had a positive impact on the grassroots community. One of the reasons Low Ink blew up over the pandemic was because a Nintendo event took place just a month prior to the first ever 2-day Low Ink that took place. So there's always, if you want new blood injected into the community, you want to like see new people come to the competitive scene and then realize how horrible everything is. It starts with these Nintendo events. So I'm happy to see that the Overlords are coming out with producing more tournaments. Be warned, these tournaments are usually dog water in actuality. The production for these things when they actually do put out streams is great and fantastic. But yeah, Turf War only. Is that what the people want? Is that what the people really want, Nintendo? We're sitting here arguing about getting rid of Rainmaker and going to Splat Zones only, and what's going to happen to my Clan Blitz? And Nintendo's like, what if you guys just did Turf War? What if you just did the one mode that should never be used in competitive in general? But Popgun, it actually doesn't come down to the last 30 seconds. Get out of my face. Not talking about that with you. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the Popcast. It is Low Ink Week. And yes, if you're looking on Battlefy to try to sign up for Low Ink, you're too late. You're looking in the wrong spot, moron. We're on Sindao.Inc. now. It's going to be the biggest tournament ever to take place on Sindao.Inc. And as many people have pointed out, oh, it's going to crash. They can't handle Char's tournament. If it could handle SOS 3 months ago, it's certainly not going to be able to handle this. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know anything about websites. Sindao has come out and said, hey, I figured out what some of the issues were. They fixed them. Now, we're going to test that, obviously, and we do have backup plans if the site does crash. The point is, though, at some point we have to make this switch. And this is a switch that has been in the works for months now, and we're finally at a point to where Low Ink can be over on Sindao, and the results already have been very positive. Initially, I was excited because more people have signed up at this point than at any point on a Monday leading up to a Low Ink in a long time. But then I realized, well, if you just sign up as just one person, you don't even have 4 players yet. It's going to count as a team on the registration side. Whereas on Battlefy, you'd be stuck down in the pending. You wouldn't count towards the actual numbers at that case. So the number's a little bit inflated, but still, this will be a pretty big Low Ink compared to what we've had recently. And that's... And that can only be accredited to the fact that it is now on a different website. So there you go. And it's, in theory, going to make things a lot easier on us, the TOs, which is the most important thing. Because what's the point of doing any of this stuff if we have to manually seed every single one of you into Swiss groups? Hopefully that's not an issue anymore. Hey, there is going to be a Friday preview of Low Ink on this very channel, on this very show, this upcoming Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're not in daylight anymore. Going to be giving you the top 10 teams that are going to win. I'm going to tell you who's going to win this tournament. And we're going to allow you guys to come on. It's going to be the Low Ink pre-show like we usually do in the Discord server. Instead, we're going to talk to you guys live on the Popcast. It's recorded, so all the stupid things you say will be locked away on this channel for all of eternity. So make sure you don't say anything too dumb. Squid for Palestinian Kids is also coming back. I believe this is the third time this tournament is going to be running. It is going to be taking place on this upcoming Sunday at 1 p.m. So yes, it's running at the same time as Low Ink. That doesn't mean we still can't support it. You still, that doesn't mean we can't donate towards it. I've commentated, I think the last one I commentated, and it's an all-around good event with a good cause. Splat Zones only. There is an art prize that is listed on the Sindel site for that as well. So if you're too good for Low Ink, or even if you are playing in Low Ink, you can still support this event. And I highly encourage that you do so because it is obviously for a very good cause. Squid for Palestinian Kids this Sunday. Today we're going to be chatting with Z. That is XI, not the letter Z. Talking about the state of mid-levels, the pickup culture that we're seeing in here, and also talking about the concept of teams having coaches/team managers. Z is the coach of the team Fearless that might be appearing in some teams' top 10 list in this upcoming Low Ink preview. So going to have a fun conversation with that. Z is a up-and-coming Splatoon personality, and who knows, might become a regular here. We've had some regulars past: Falco, Magic, K-Bot. Is that how this name's pronounced? Maybe Z will join that list. We'll see how today goes. All that and more. But first, it was a big weekend for the competitive Splatoon scene. Lots of streams, lots of commentators taking place in things across the scene. The CCA ran SAC finals, CCA finals happening at the same weekend with a fried basket sprinkled in, and also an LSL mixed into the mix as well. A lot of different commentators going off across this scene. And I feel bad because I didn't participate in anything. I got asked to do a SAC pre-show. I wasn't available for IRL stuff. I got asked to commentate SAC, wasn't available. Got asked to commentate CCA. I probably could have been available for that, but I declined it just because I knew Low Ink was coming up next weekend, and I can't spend that much time away from my family. And it worked out because Saturday night, PJ turned into a barf fountain. Literally just did a 360 barf all over his bed and walls and the ceiling. It was not a fun time. So I probably wasn't going to be available or in a good mood to commentate anything on Sunday. Anyways, the kid turned out, he's fine. He just, guess we've been experimenting with different things for him to eat, and maybe we came up with some stuff we might not give him for a little bit of time. Regardless, though, I counted, at least on the CCA side, 32 commentators, and there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of commentators that did CCA and SAC stuff. I don't know. I didn't pay attention at all to the LSL stream. I'm sorry, but I did look at LSL, and that is where we're going to start. Because what we're going to do is we're going to tie LSL, SAC, and CCA. We're going to tie it all together into a nice little Popcast Christmas gift that you guys get to open up. Because there's a common theme between those three events that I noticed, and a lot of you noticed it as well, as it became the topic of conversation on Blue Sky and other social media over the course of the weekend. So let's dive into it, starting off with Little Squid League, which took place on Saturday. It was won by Distortion. Now, if you're wondering who Distortion is, the number one seed of Little Squid League, I got some good news for you. They're not a pickup, but they're an actual team that has quite a bit of things on their resume that you would like to see out of any team that is playing in Little Squid League in a low-level tournament and is grinding and working their way up to becoming the next best Low Ink team and the team that's going to be moving on to life after Low Ink. They have played, from what I could find on Sindao.inc. Now, if they played in low inks, I couldn't see that, obviously, but everything else, I found that the team Distortion has played in 18 tournaments as a team up to this point, including 6 tournaments that are either open invite tournaments or was a skill cap above low ink, i.e. they played in the Fountain of Dreams. So that counts as above one of those 6 tournaments that I mentioned right there. Before they won this LSL, the week leading up to this LSL tournament, they played in an SOS and a Fountain of Dreams tournament. That's 2 open tournaments above their skill level that they played in. Did they do well in those tournaments? Absolutely not. That's not the point. The point is that they're playing teams better than them and working to improve. If you're telling me that didn't have a direct correlation on them winning this Little Squid League, I will tell you that you are full of snot or whatever barf was coming out of PJ on Saturday night, because it absolutely plays a role into things. Iron sharpens iron, or sharper iron sharpens your iron, and that worked out for Distortion. That is what you want to see, right? You want to see actual teams, and you want to see them playing in, you don't want them all wire low ink teams always playing in nothing but low ink. That's not true. That narrative is not true anymore, and Distortion, an LSL team, prove that is continuing not true, and they're rewarded with a championship because of it. Now, they had to beat other teams on their route to get to this one. They had to beat Left Turn in the diamond bracket, the single elimination bracket. They beat Left Turn 2-0. They had to beat Lethal Slide. They had to beat them in a game 5, so they got pushed to the limit against them. And they had to beat Inked Under, another actual team in grand finals, took them to a game 6 before knocking them out. So Distortion, an actual team, played 3 other actual teams in their route to winning the whole tournament. Now, did they play some pickups along the way? There's no way Sleeping Penguins, the White Shell, the Whale Shark Warriors, and Point Blank. Those sounds like actual team names to me. We'll give credit for that. But that's nothing new. Actual teams playing a low level is nothing new. You don't usually see pickups until you get to that point to where you're like the beta alpha bracket level of low ink, and that's where you start seeing more pickups, and that's where you see more pickups starting to win those kinds of tournaments. But it makes sense that you see actual teams at the Little Squid League level and at the lower end of the low ink level. When you're getting into the scene, you're usually not just getting in by yourself. You're usually either have somebody you know who's like bringing you in and like, hey, maybe we'll do a pickup to get into things. But more often than not, when people start off in the scene, they're just grabbing 3 other people. Let's make a team, and then we go from there, because you're playing against a bunch of other teams. And then as you play other teams, you start to meet other people in the community, and then you'll start like DMing other people and be like, hey, it'd be cool just to play a tournament with you and like 2 other people I'm kind of friends with. And that's how pickups start to grow as you get better at the scene. So Distortion playing nothing but teams in Little Squid League is not breaking news. But if you're so used to seeing things at the upper echelon of the community where it's just pickup after pickup after pickup, it might be a little bit weird to look at a Little Squid League and be like, oh, wait, these teams have actual history against each other. There's actually something to look at here. But that's the cool thing about LSL, and congratulations once again to Distortion. Now, Distortion signed up for low ink this month, and I'll be quite honest, I don't 100% know how the seeding works out, because when you sign up for a tournament, it automatically gives you a seed based off everyone else that has signed up at that time, and everyone gets to see it looking at the results. Distortion's currently the number 2 seeded team over teams that we already know we're going to kick out, because they got players that are like, it's kind of cringe you even signed up for low ink. So I don't really know how good Distortion is in that context. Like, are they supposed to like cakewalk low ink based off of the seeding? I have no idea. But what's next? That brings us to SAC, which was won by a team that has paid their dues, by players that have been a part of this scene for a long time, a team that has existed since February of 2022 and might win the award for biggest jackass team in a good way, not an annoying way, that I have ever talked about here on the Popcast. Triggerfish Zone Supremacy. A team named after literally the worst map and mode combo that you could have in competitive Splatoon. Maybe the most divisive, because there's some people who think it's really good, and then there's people that aren't morons that understand that it is really horrible. They won SAC. Check that. They curb stomped SAC. In the finals, the final tournament, in the qualifiers, not so much, but in the finals, which they did qualify for, they swept Free Flow. They beat Chocolate Milkshake 3-2 in winners finals and played the Cafeteria twice, beating them in games 6-1. A true underdog story. A real up-and-coming, man, it feels good. A heartwarming story that a team like Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, who has won an SOS before and played in the Proving Grounds Invitational and won Div 3 and, oh my gosh, was the number 3 seed in the Sindao Q finals just a few weeks ago. But Popgun, they didn't win a single set in that Sindao Q finals. It doesn't matter. They earned a number 3 seed in a $700 tournament. They earned it. That team won a tournament that is, quote, mid-level and for teams above the low ink skill cap. That is the purpose, the thesis behind SAC. Oh, okay. Now, when the SAC first started, and I've been critical on this show about the skill cap, the fact that it doesn't actually exist on SAC, but also pointed out the fact that SAC is a really good way, and the staff behind this have done a fantastic job of promoting the teams and players that have been a part of this season. It's been a fantastic way to it's been a good league kind of format in a sense, like as far as how it promotes everybody that's a part of it. If it just cut out the word mid-level and let's just don't have a skill cap at all. Like, if that's what the purpose of it is, just get rid of that stuff. Don't try to pretend that it's something that it's not. And let's just enjoy it for what it is. Because to sit here and say Triggerfish Zone Supremacy won a tournament that is the next step after low ink is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, regardless of what your view of that team is. You must not think of them as a middle-of-the-pack, mid-level team, whatever your definition of that is. And yes, I know they're in Div 3. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the fact that they won SAC, do you view them any differently? Like, do you put Triggerfish Zone Supremacy into a different tier of teams because they won this tournament? I don't. Maybe some of you who thought less of them would. And you want a little Popgun, don't you think less of them because they were in Div 3 and you're part of the seeding council? Well, maybe yes and no. What would be weird is if under the current rule set, Triggerfish Zone Supremacy would be allowed to play in SAC next season if they don't get Div X. Now, I'm not saying they're not a Div X team. In fact, I would say they have the potential / the caliber required to be a Div X team. Are they actually going to get that whenever the next Ludi season happens? No, because I know this team well enough to know that they're going to have a cycle where they start sucking out of nowhere, and then that's going to be around the time when they get the essays, whenever Ludi season come out, and they're going to end up in like Div 2 or something like that. I know that's going to happen because that's how they went through this SAC season. They got 3rd place, 5th place, 5th place, and didn't play in the last qualifier. They didn't do super well to their own standards in any of those qualifiers at all, and then just turn on the Jets when it absolutely mattered most. Well, why can't every tournament matter the most to Triggerfish Zone Supremacy? We would see them in the same category as a Healthy Diet Food Groups if they were just more consistent, which they're capable of, but they're not. So that's why I say where I put them in my mind, doesn't change because they've won SAC, and they shouldn't change where you think of them as well, unless you didn't think that they're actually as good as what they really are, because they are good when they feel like it. Well, Saturday they felt like it, so good for them. But please, Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, make this the standard and just lock in. And you can't sit here and tell me that the doubters, you haven't given the doubters a reason to doubt you. Be consistent. This is who you are. Flex on some people. DivX is right there. But did you know a lot of the Triggerfish Zone Supremacy players have a history of repping their schools in the CCA or outright running the CCA? Triggerfish Zone Supremacy is literally the CCA incarnate, and it's good to see them be as powerful as they have been in the SAC season. But let's transition that into the CCA. They had their season finals this weekend, and good golly, Miss Molly, did they put in the work. I knew about this months ago because DRF DM'd me like, hey, we're going to do this finals like 2 months from now. Are you available? And I was like, I don't even know what my kids can do in 2 days from now, so I can't commit to it then. Ultimately had to turn it down. But hope to be a part of CCA stuff in the future. But I knew this was coming up. I didn't know they were streaming every single division with 32 commentators over the course of the weekend with predictions and all of the work that they put into this season. There is nobody that works harder. If there is like the hardest working SOB award, it would go to the CCA. And that's not a shot at anybody. I'm not like calling out Low Ink staff for not working hard enough. I'm not saying like Ludi does absolutely nothing. Like, I understand there's a lot of hard work that goes into all of these events that are being created. But have you seen what the CCA is doing? Like, goddamn, they're putting in some insane levels of production that we haven't seen anywhere else. And it was always frustrating to me that they weren't getting the kind of viewership that they deserved. And I'm not calling out anybody in particular. Like, how could you guys that are in high school that are playing in like you're a +1 player, how come you're not paying attention to this college stuff? I was critical of the CCA itself for not paying attention to the CCA stuff. I would implore, if you are a CCA player, you don't know how good you got it. You honest to God do not understand how good you got it. And it made no sense to me how a 900 team tournament could average 400 or 40 live viewers. Average 40 live viewers. That means that the vast majority of the teams that are playing in that tournament aren't even bothering to throw up the stream on their monitor. Like, you don't even have to pay attention to watch it. You can just give a free view for something you were playing in. And they weren't even doing that. And that's got to be frustrating. But I will say they finally got the viewership they deserved over the course of this weekend. They put in a lot of effort to get it, and they got it. And they put on a fantastic show. Congratulations to the Big Fat Sea Cows. We'll talk about all the teams in the weekly recap that did a part of that. But I would just implore people of the CCA, just appreciate what you got and show some love to it. And I'm not sitting here saying people don't appreciate it or they don't show the love to it. But it's hard to get everybody else outside of the bubble that they're in to care when they're not generating that enough buzz by themselves. And I'm not talking about the people actually creating things. I'm talking about the people playing it and the spectators for it. Would love to see more of that coming from within rather than trying to see if people outside the CCA should care about this or not. But the CCA, man, they go all in on team stats, the matchup history. We're talking about the fact that actual teams exist, because that is something that people were recognizing from the CCA, and it started a huge conversation on Blue Sky. How come we don't see more teams outside the CCA? Because the CCA is literally nothing but teams. Like, you have to be a team. You have to be from a specific school with 3 other people that go to that same school, and you have to all be a part of something for an extended period of time, whether you get people from actual teams that are just working together with their college, which is the case. You see a lot of people that are kind of like on dual team. Well, this is my college team and this is my try-hard team or whatever, like my IRL team, I guess. You see a lot of that. But it's still actual teams that are playing in the CCA. Actual teams that are playing in Little Squid League. An actual team that is competing and winning SAC. Which sparks the continuing conversation of the fact that everything above all the skill levels of stuff that I just talked about is mostly pickup culture. And, well, it's so much easier to talk about all this stuff when it's actual teams. I talked about how the CCA does team stats, matchup histories, and they put that right upstream for you to see. It's easier to talk about that. It's easier to talk about, especially if you're in the business I am. It's a lot easier to talk about actual teams and things like that versus pickups and individual players. And Magic was on this show. One of the things he talked about was the fact that I mostly cover low level here on the Popcast. And even though I do cover a lot of high level events as well, I don't spend a lot of time talking about these tournaments that have a bunch of pickup players in it. Hey, here's $100. You won this one. Congratulations. We'll see you next month. I'm mostly just making fun of Proving Grounds at this point, but I haven't really talked about Proving Grounds a lot here either, which is frustrating, but it is reality that talking about teams is just way easier and way more interesting than talking about individual players at this point. Now, we're going to talk about Z with this in a minute, but pointing out, I get this. Look, I get this narrative of pointing out the fact that pickup culture is hurting the scene. Okay. Well, that you got a point. What are you going to do about it? Does anybody have a solution? Does anybody know a way to grab 4+1 players, make them kiss together, and you are now a team? Like, you can't do that. You can't create teams. And you can come, we're going to do a league, and we're going to do this tournament, and we're going to have this format. Okay, that's not going to create teams. You can't force teams to exist. So yeah, if we want to acknowledge that pickup culture is more frustrating than the actual team culture, you're right. You're absolutely right. Nobody has a solution to it. Not a single person has a solution. So to continue to point out the problem, okay, but until somebody comes up with a solution to it, which I'm convinced there's not one that actually exists, then you just have to embrace it. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I'll continue to embrace it, double down on it here. Yes, this past weekend was very exciting, but pickup culture exists beyond the level that we're looking at with these tournaments right here. You have to embrace it. And it starts with highlighting the individual players versus highlighting the individual teams. And even with what we're doing right now, with looking at some of these teams, you can go deeper. You can talk about the individual players on the actual teams, get to know them at a little bit better of a viewpoint. Now, do I want to see the CCA break down this player's matchup against that player's matchup like that? I don't know if they could do that deep of a dive into things. But until that kind of change happens, our viewpoint of pickup culture is not going to change. Because I'm telling you right now, pickup culture is not going away. It's not going anywhere. You can't force things to change. But even with that being said, I will say it was nice to have a team-filled weekend to drive the community for at least the past weekend, at least for a little bit. It reminds you of the good old days. But for life outside of Low Ink and SAC, those days are over. You got to embrace it because you can't change it. In my opinion, you can't. Oh, boy. Some other events took place this weekend. And we'll go back and dive back into the actual results of the CCA. So before we get to Z, we're not going to play Roller Coaster Tycoon music again. Instead, we're going to play the usual music we play here for the weekly recap. Paddling pool number 296 took place on Wednesday. It was won by FaZe Clan. Mango Heck Mech took second place, and Astral Aces rounds out your top three. Using actual names like FaZe Clan or like the Los Angeles Lakers or something, I've always found that stuff cringe. But there's way worse pickup names I guess you could come up with. It's just like we're associated with something. It's like, no, you're not. And I know it's just a joke. I know other people have been doing it too. My takeaway from Paddling Pool 296 is Mango Heck Mech beat the FaZe Clan team 3-1 before losing to them 6-0 in grand finals. But I started to think about this. Mango Heck Mech was a low ink team several years ago. Are they the best team to move out of low ink and continue to grind up? Because Mango Heck Mech is on the rise. They might be actual teams. They might be top 5 in actual team categories that we have right now. I mean, there's not a lot to choose from at the top. It's like Moonlight, Black Lotus, and then everyone else. But Mango Heck Mech, you got to give them props for continuing to be a thing for such a long time and continue to grow at a steady pace outside of low ink. SOS number 170 took place on Wednesday. It was won by the NFT Robbers Deluxe. Ultra Violence took second place, and Ollie Games Respect is the team that took home the bronze. If you are curious, because Harshi is on the NFT Robbers Deluxe, and this has been brought up before, how many times has Harshi as an individual won SOS? Well, I looked it up. The answer is 12. Harshi has 12 SOS championship badges on their sent out profile. I would assume that's a record. No other name comes to mind. I'm sure there's other people that have like double digits maybe, but 12 has to be the highest number right now. And so be it. Hey, maybe somebody else should sign up and beat them, or nobody can. I don't know. Hammerhead was won by Moonshine. They won Hammerhead before they won Low Ink. X Duradale won Mako bracket, and Sweetside won Lantern bracket. How are you going to let Moonshine into Low Ink if they won a Hammerhead bracket? There's only 35 teams that played in this SOS. Context matters. It's not your placement. It's the actual results that you get. Fountain of Dreams number 4 took place last Thursday. It was won by 8K Ping. You remember them? Paradigm Starfish took second place, and Wave Breaker rounds out your top 3. This tourney is bringing back teams that I completely forgot about. I've been thinking about posting a list of low ink teams that you forgot about. How many of you guys remember Port Raccoon? I do. They're the team that had the best opponent win percentage of all time, or the worst if you different way of looking at it. But still, I forgot about 8K Ping. They came out of nowhere and won this tournament. I believe they got somebody in their 40s that plays on that team, or like late 30s. They got somebody older than me that plays for that team, and they won Fountain of Dream. How about that? Let's take a look at the CCA Division 1. The Virginia Commonwealth University, the Big Fat Sea Cows, or the Sea Crows, as Brush would say, ended up winning Division 1. Second place went to the University of Florida, Death Roll. And third place, the University of Texas at Dallas, Ark Halley. Division 2 was won by the Ohio State University, Octo and Squids United Scarlet. They can't beat Michigan in a free win football game, but they can win Division 2 of CCA. Division 3 was won by VCU, not the Big Fat Sea Cows, but the Goomies. VCU sweep. And in Division 4, Newmont College of Computer Science, that can't be a real thing. The Llamas wins Division 4. In collaboration with SOAP from Irvine Valley College, the CCA hosted the CCA Circuit Pick'ems for the final event this past weekend. Participated in picked teams, players, modes, and more with various predictions across the full event. Yoko Poke came first with 873 points, predicting 33 of the 55 questions correctly. Well, there you go, Yoko Poke. And finally, an announcement, the celebration of the end of the semester, the CCA has opened its limited time merch shop. Merch shop? I'm going to check that out. Really? Once more, offering stickers and limited edition t-shirts. The shop is open until January the 15th, so be sure to visit our fourth wall site for details. I am 100% getting me a CCA t-shirt, unless it's like $50. Collegiate action continues in the spring with another edition of entrance exam, the CCA single edition prep tournament. After that, the CCA League returns for season 6. Look for that and more information to come in January. Turning our attention now to the NFL, probably the most popular segment here on the Popcast. The Rams beat the Fighting Buffalo Josh Allens 44-24. The Chiefs doink the Chargers 19-17. The Steelers exercised the demons of the Browns 27-14. And the Vikings, the most underrated team and the most least talked about two-loss team in the history of NFL, they beat the Falcons 42-21. I think Kirk Cousins leaving the Vikings worked out for everybody except for Kirk Cousins. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by the United States healthcare system. Nothing rallies our nation together quite like the fact that we're all going to die for preventable diseases, because we live in an era where everything can be kind of fixed somewhat, with just nobody can afford it. But the United States healthcare system is bringing us all together. And for that, they get to be the sponsor for today's segment of the weekly recap. Ugh. But no, seriously, the CCA has a store? I'll post it in chat. A link to it. No, I won't. Because I gotta hit this. There we go. How about that? The circuit? That's what it looks like? They don't have the logo? Oh, there's the logo. Oh, you can get in different colors too? I hate it when Splatoon teams have nothing but black as their team jerseys. Like, there's other colors that exist. There's other colors. Come on. Case in point, six-pack yolks. Going with this tannish yellow color seems to work out. Oh. But there we go. Yeah, okay. Kiara sending me the link of the DM there. The circuit. Is that really what it's called? The circuit. All right. Let's bring Z into this one. The circuit. There we go. Testing. Is that you, Z?
Yes, hello.
There we go. So welcome into the Popcast. The head TO of Fountain of Dreams, the coach for Fearless, staff for Under Pressure, and someone who in the future is going to be a PNG tuber, which I am probably too old to know what that is. Z, how's morale today?
Good.
What now? I only know you from the tournaments that you run and some of the takes you've been having on Blue Sky. I'm assuming you actually play this game, right?
Yes, I did
You
competitively.
you did. What was the last team you were on?
So I played for C-Bay as a
Oh,
sub. Yeah.
oh, as a sub. Okay. What weapon did you play?
I mainly played pen,
Pin? Like the ball?
pen, pencil and edit.
Oh. I thought you were gonna
Yeah.
say pin, as in like the ballpoint pin,
No.
but pencil. Fair enough. Are you embarrassed of the fact that you main pencil?
No.
A proud pencil player.
Surprisingly.
Fair enough. Um, I want to start off with this topic. It's been the topic over the course of the weekend. And you kind of alluded to it on your Blue Sky a little bit earlier today. I just have one question. Is pickup culture really ruining the whole scene?
I don't think it's ruining it. I just think it could be better. I think going with teams is the right direction, but I don't think pickup culture as a whole is bad for the scene.
Well, my stance has always been obviously, yes, teams is a little bit better. But when you talk about actual pickups, it's easier to just say, hey, can we get three other people that want to be a part of this? And then just being like, yeah, sure, I'll play in that tournament with you. And I feel like we have so many, we've seen so many pickups now to where it feels like some of these pickups are just teams at this point. Like, is really are the people that are playing with Keo, like that's not an actual team, but it's not like, oh well, they don't have any experience playing with Keo. No, they've been doing that for years now. Um, do you think there's any way to force teams to actually exist?
I I don't think there's any way to force them. I think there are stuff like what I mentioned on Blue Sky where we could like try to create more teams and um try to form them, but I don't think we're gonna get to a point where we're actually gonna force teams to exist.
Are there any? What are some ideas that you might have to how to like create teams?
I think going towards more long form tournaments, like not single day, your average 3 to 4 hour tournament. I think going towards more circuits and leagues are a way that we could try. Um, and the circuits don't have to be like super long. They could be like a week long, and you have, or not like a week, but like a week or two, and you have your game days and such. Um, But that's like the really only way I could like actually think of, okay, we can actually combat pickup culture.
So the CCA does a circuit. It lasts for 2 months or like 2.5 months or something like that. Um, and yeah, you get actual team. Like I don't know if chocolate milkshakes an actual team or the cafeteria, but you did see the cafeteria like play in other events outside of SAC during that season. What are your thoughts on SAC as a whole? I'm just curious about that.
I think what SAC does is really good, especially like the production. Like the production was amazing.
Yeah.
Getting all the team previews of all the teams was, and actually like hearing the players' voices was really cool. And the overall format is great. Um, I think like one thing I'd like to see is like if you win, you're just automatically in. Like I don't know if we need to have chocolate milkshake playing every single time. I think we could try to invite some newer teams in there as well. But yeah, overall, SEC as a whole, I think is a step in the right direction, and I like to see it more often.
Well, it's tricky because that's how they did it last season. If you won, you were just automatically in. the The weird thing about that is if you win the first qualifier, then we just don't see you for 2 months. Like you, like you're gonna play in this final a month and a half from now, and until then, we don't see you at all. So that the creating team aspect gets kind of flipped on that. But on the flip side, it creates this awkward issue, like you're bringing up, where it's like, okay, chocolate milkshake's just punking everybody week in and week out until they finally just run out of steam, and then I think the cafeteria or whoever, yeah, no, I forget who won the third one, that finally knocked them out, and then obviously Triggerfish got them in a game five, that last one. So yeah, it's the CCA is just in an awkward spot of like there's no perfect way to do a 2.5 month long event, um, in like satisfy all those goals, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so you created another tournament, Fountain of Dreams, which I give credit to for being what I envisioned the skill cap for SAC, what it used to be. Where did the concept of creating Fountain of Dreams come from?
It actually came from this pod. I'm not even gonna lie. I think you like said like it would be really cool if there was a Div 3 tournament. I was like, okay, you know what? That's actually like really good. Because I think like that's like the perfect divide between mid-level and you actually being able to compete for like podium in like an SOS or a Squid Junction or a paddling pool. Um, yeah.
So how's that going so far? You've run 4 editions. What kind of feedback are you getting from teams about that?
We're getting lots of positive feedback. We've started 2 editions ago running underground, and almost every single team that gets out in underground still wants to play, which is really cool to see. And our most of our teams are actual teams. Like this past edition, we had 20 teams, and I just counted, and 15 of those were actual teams that I could go, okay, yeah, you guys have played for a while together. So that's also really nice to see.
You have a skill floor. It's Div 7,
Si- Six.
6, meaning you have to be above. No, you have to be above Div 7.
Yes.
Yes, you have. Okay, a minimum of Div 6. Where did the concept of a skill floor come from? And I'm just curious what kind of feedback you've gotten from that.
Um so it was kind of the idea was it was the step after like your FTIUs and LSLs as a biweekly. But the feedback we've gotten was is actually like really positive. I actually like pulled in the Discord we have. If we wanted to like try to invite some Div 7 teams or like completely unfloor it. And most of the response was to keep it floored at Div 6. So we've just kind of kept it that way.
Now, and you've heard this. I've griped about skill floors before. My my biggest complaint is, and this wouldn't really apply to you, but just skill floor, the concept of it in general is like how many teams do you think you're actually keeping out by having a floor, or like how much does what sell me on the concept of how a skill floor would like improve your tournament versus not having it.
I genuinely don't know how many teams uh would pop in. I think I could probably get like a couple if I reached out, but I don't know if there's that many teams that would um start appearing in an FOD if they're not appearing in other and even like Div 5 cat tournaments.
um so one of the things you posted, I guess, over the last weekend was talking about the concept of being more aware of just like coaches slash team managers that kind of exist within the community. I think the thesis of what you're trying to talk about was anybody could coach anybody. It doesn't have to be, oh, we're a low ink team. We need a Div 3 player to coach us specifically. Um, where did that kind of was there like a specific incident that kind of like made you think about that, or like where did that come from?
So I've been recently getting into like the Rainbow Six Siege competitive scene, and there's this one guy named Fet. He won one of the majors, which is like 750K, and you get an invite to their $3 million invitational. And uh he he has the highest rank in the game, but he only has like a point like 96 KD. And like people I remember watching a short of people like flaming him for it, but it also kind of like sparked this idea of okay, you don't need to be like this insane player to be this insane coach. You just need to have you just need to like gr I guess grind up the tape is the way to put it and start learning. Uh, um,
You know, K-Bot has coached Seafoam, Coach Sonder, kind of
yeah.
semi-famously went up on stage at LTC after every time Sonder was getting beat up by somebody. I don't know what advice you could give in those kind of instances, but yeah, there's an example. And K-Bot sucks at the video game and openly tells you that. Doesn't even play it, but still has coached some of the like highest teams that we've had in the community. What made you want to get into coaching? Did you coach Fearless, a potentially an alpha bracket team from last lowing? What made you want to get into it?
I just think I have a good mind for the game, and I like helping people out. And they have been amazing. Some of my core friends, and I figured once I get low ink band, I'm just gonna help this team grind uh, so they can meet me in mid level.
Well, that's another thing I kind of wanted to ask about was when this team does get that low ink ban, when they get that DM and that certificate, if Brush feels like making it, are you at all concerned about the future of Fearless at that point? Not because of like the character of your own team, but more so because of the scene that they're going into of life after lowing.
Uh, I don't know what their plans are after lowing, frankly, but I think I have a good feeling that they'll stick together.
Do you know what do you have like an idea of what their goal might be after, like I'm assuming their goal right now is to win low ink, right?
Yes.
What do, is there like a specific goal to reach for after that?
Uh, I'm reading. Uh, not not after lowing.
I mean, the answer
There's
can
currently
be
not a
no.
goal.
I mean,
Yeah.
the answer can be no. Winning Fountain of Dreams might be
Yeah,
that.
maybe.
'Cause, um, I mean, for us, for me personally, SAC was the next step, but like there's no way a low ink team can just move on afterwards and start competing for an SAC as it stands right now. What you have basically is Paradigm Starfish winning bronze. It's like, okay, they're so far away from making the finals at this point, which some people will say, well, that's how it should be, and then others will be like, well, like it's just too difficult to start all the way down at the bottom and go up from the top right there. As you were coaching, do you have a tip? Do you have like something you've noticed about low ink teams in general that they do that hold them back?
I think the easiest thing teams can start implementing is just push up past the objective. A lot of teams just don't do it for some reason, and um, simply putting yourself in front of the objective and not actually just sitting on the objective just makes your life so much easier because you don't have to worry about people stalling the objective at all or um, all being clamped up on the objective. I think like if you're gonna give one tip to low level teams, it's usually like lower than like beta bracket that like you'll see it, but even some like beta and alpha bracket teams do it. It's just pushing past the objective and not just sitting on it.
So something I've noticed of all the Splatoon I watched this past weekend, and granted, I didn't watch Black Lotus Cup a couple weekends ago. I didn't watch Fry Basket, but if you look at Low Ink, nobody's using pencil. Nobody was using. I don't think pencil was very popular in CCA, and it wasn't used hardly at all at SAC. Now, it's Triggerfish, and there was some team using triple wiper splash. Like, there's some teams that are
Yeah.
just like, I'm genuinely convinced some teams are just they just don't care anymore and are just doing whatever. Why is pencil going away? Like pencil's still busted at least for splat zones, right?
Yeah, I think um it's like really good on zones, but also like teams have just figured out that um cooler isn't required. And sometimes you can just get away with being hyper aggressive and then teams just fall apart because they have to wait for their cooler because teams are programmed to wait for cooler every single fight.
It, yeah, I mean, we still see vanilla edit. That's a popular pick and link. You still see the NZAP in particular. I just wonder if low level has just all handshook agreed with each other to not use pencil for whatever reason. And it's just kind of like moved on from that. Um, do you have thoughts on splat zones only in tournaments? Let's say splat zones only as the standard for most tournaments in the future.
I'm not a fan of zones only. I did really like the 633 format that 20XX did, where you still had a bit of every mode, but we confined it to like the TC maps everyone likes and the Clan Blitz maps everyone likes. Um, and I pulled that on Twitter, like what format would you like? And it had zones only. It had the 20XX format. It had what we have now, and because back then it was the conversation of, oh, we should be trying experimental maps or maps that don't get used often. And like the 633 format won by like a landslide. It was like over half. So I do think all modes is still the most popular. Maybe it's removing Rainmaker and keeping the other modes, but I think Zones Only just gets a bit stale
Well,
at some point.
it depends on who you ask, and that's kind of the frustrating thing with getting the whole community united and agreed on anything is there's a sharp divide between what low level thinks the community should be and what the people that are winning money in tournaments thinks that the community should be. And the problem is the higher level players have more clout, but the lower level players have 600 times the amount of player base. So if you were to put up a poll and you were to ask them, like low level's going to dominate every single map poll because just they have a
Yeah.
lot more numbers than everybody else, which is why when you say the vast majority approve of the 633 format, I think that's very telling because that tells you, well, I mean, not everybody's voting on that poll, but it still shows you that even the lower level scene, I think, is on board with stuff like that. But I just from the general glance I've gotten, I think if you got rid of Rainmaker today, nobody would care. In fact, I think you don't even need to announce. I think you could just silently remove Rainmaker from every tournament, and there's not going to be a single person that's going to be like, "Wait, why'd they take that away? I missed that." Um, and personally, I like if I had my way, everything would just be Clan Blitz. I think Clan Blitz is like the perfect team competitive mode within Splatoon. I mean, it's a little bit wanky at times. I get that, but it's like that's more entertaining for me. And I don't want to watch Splat Zones over and over and over. Like Splat Zones Hagglefish is just like just skip 5 minutes. Let's go to the next game. Me personally, um, but I get the appeal of just one mode, and I just don't think you're going to get a lot of low level sold on it. And I think you're just going to have to force that upon them. And I don't really think that's fair. But at the same time, you can't have low level do modes that they're not going to see outside of things because then you're just hindering them. That's my just like spitballing top off the top of my head with that.
Yeah. Um, I don't have much else. Maybe like I guess we're like kind of like funneling them into zones only, where it's not like directly zones only, but we're just like um, if we remove Rainmaker and then you only have three of the other. the three TC and three Thin then maybe people start liking it more. I'm not sure.
Well, I can say we've been kind of like tiptoeing that line. Like even low ink, we obviously prioritize splat zones. It's game one of every counterpick scenario. So we're obviously putting a lot of emphasis on splat zones, even though it's not the the entirety of it. Like we're allowing you to step away from it a little bit, but we are forcing you to be good at splat zones if you want to have control of your destiny over the course of a counterpick set. Um, but I don't know. It's just something that's been talked about more. Obviously, all the high level tournaments are splat zones only already. Um, but low ink teams are so far away from being competitive in those anyways. It doesn't really make sense to force them to do splat zones only with that. Um, how's is there anything else you wanted to discuss? I mean, this was some good stuff. We kind of jumped all over the place. I know you just kind of reached out about coaching, but there's always a lot of interesting things to talk about with the community.
I have nothing else.
Fair enough. Where can people find you? Um, do you use Twitter anymore? Do you even have a Twitter?
No, I do have a Twitter, but I don't use it. I just redirect people to my Blue Sky. Um, and that is imxi.bsky.social. And then my Discord is I'm underscore Z, IM underscore XI. And those are the two places you could find me.
If somebody were to have an interest into getting into coaching, because we get this at the IPL question channel a lot. Hey, I'm looking for a coach, and we're like, we can help you sign up for a tournament. Is there any place people can go that you're aware of to like look for a coach, or is there like any server for that?
The Splatoon FA server has a place for it. It's just
Oh,
called coaching. Um, and then like there's also places in like Splatoon Stronghold that you can find coach posts and stuff.
how
Those are the
is coaching like?
yeah.
Does it take up a lot of time from your day, or like what do you do as a coach? Like, what is your day to day as a coach?
Um, it is mainly forcing my team to get together to do VOD reviews, and VOD reviews aren't like an extremely long process. It's mainly like 1 2 hours a week. That's about it.
Fair enough. That's 1 to 2 hours a week is when you have a kid, you don't really have that time, but maybe maybe you can find some to squeeze out there. Cause I've genuinely had an interest in coaching, but if I did it, I wouldn't like put it in my bio or anything. Like I would be like a secret, like a shadow coach for a team, and then when they win, I'll take all the credit, but I won't like
Yeah.
I, I just don't want to like, oh, your Popgun's team, y'all, we're gonna beat you or something like that. But not that I have that much clout, but it's something that's been interested for me. Um, Regardless, thank you for coming on. We'll definitely find ways to get you back on more in the future. Keep doing stuff like this. I think you said you've had some other people reach out. I want to hear more from you, and the more you do this, I feel like you got some more takes about the scene as a whole that are some interesting that I should be going forward with that. So thank you for coming on. We'll see some more of you in the future.
Thank you for having me.
And that was ZXI, the head TO of Fountain of Dreams, and also does stuff with Under Pressure. Um, some good stuff there. I like, and that's what I want to do more of. I want to bring in people who are posting. I don't want to. I don't look at Twitter anymore, but people that are just like posting interesting things. It feels like Blue Sky is just a good way to have more conversations with people, and I want to take some of those more people that are good at having conversations on that site and bring them on here to have deeper conversations about stuff like that. So that's my envision with what we can do here, and I'm feel like we accomplished that today. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Popcast. We will be back Friday with the Low Ink preview, 3 p.m. You guys could be a part of that too. So sign up for it and have some takes about Low Ink if you want. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast anyway, feel free to reach out. My socials below: Popgun at Discord, YouTube 25 Popgun, Twitch at Popgun 25. Blue Sky. It's a straight up Popgun, that as well. See you on Friday. Make sure you're vaccinated, stay safe, sign up for Low Ink, and sign up for Squids for Palestinian Kids on Sunday as well. Good night.